Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Here is a good evening, and we are with our closing keynote speaker. We're really glad to have none other than Sunil Varkey, who has been a CISO, CTO, former web profiler, writer, speaker, mentor, and a person who has motivated me personally a lot with his stories. Let me share a story about him that I was worried once that how should I share my thoughts, whether should I share it or not. And he mentioned that when I can share about snake and ladder stories, why can't you share your stories? And he's been one person who's very down to earth, who's many stories to share, and you can speak to him for hours. So without further ado, let me just get him into the session and let's get started, and let's learn a lot from him as well. Hi sir, how are you?
Thank you very much, Vandana. All good and really happy, honored to be in this forum. Especially this is a forum and it's been consistently is happening with a lot of passion around it. And I see a lot of developers, the security guys, they all look forward for this forum on that. And you are doing a fantastic job. And taking my time and to mention that, thank you very much for that, to having me in here.
Thank you so much, sir. It's an honor to have you with us. And let's get started. And I'm going to give you the stage and we'll bring your presentation here. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Vandana. See, the topic we are trying to cover is on the digital trust, because we have been hearing this term for the last couple of years' time. But we have started seeing many events where the digital trust is not being handled properly, and the companies or the individuals are all facing problems because of that. So I think it is very crucial for us to understand and step back and look at saying what is digital trust and who actually is the important, because many technologies, many services, if you look at, it's a bunch of few people who controls it and who can manage it. But when it comes to digital trust, it's a very collaborative with a wide range of stakeholders involved. And so there is it's a top down and a the bottom up approach required by everybody to maintain that. So to start with, let me just define what is the real definition of a digital trust. Digital trust, if you search, you will see the reference to a confidence of users or all the customers having the security, reliability, integrity, privacy of our digital system and the organizations that operates them. So that's a fundamental requirement. I know it's a all these few statements is a big requirement, and it is very vital for our customers and the stakeholders to have a confidence in the organization, the services they this thing. This impacts the business reputations and regulatory compliance in a very big way. And digital trust is not just a technology or a process. It is more of a strategic imperative where and is a continuous activity to do that. So that is the definition we should look at digital trust, because many programs or standards or initiatives, if you look at, we look at in isolation. So a classic example of that is zero trust. Zero trust is a fantastic methodology or a concept. But the problem is so many people got involved and made it in siloed approach where it is not reaching its objective. So the same way, everything, like we say privacy by design, the security by design, we should also look at and say digital trust by design and through its life cycle has to be considered. So that's the important level of digital trust coming into picture. Now, if you look at how does a physical world's trust compare to a cyber world's trust, there is a lot of commonality. If you look at, we normally look at the predictability and consistency on that. If you are dealing with a person, we look at and saying that, is he consistent on his approach? Is he truthful to what he is saying? Can we predict the way he behaves? The same manner the people look at in the cyber world also, whether the services are running in the same way. What is the reputation history? So we compare both sides. to say, do I know the site for a very long time, or was it registered last week which just came up? Am I comfortable with the reputation of the organization which is managing? And then the transparency and communication. Recently we have seen a couple of major incidents where the company is actually making a mockery out of the transparency part, because they are not transparent, they are not being truthful, they are not making sure that their users or the stakeholders are aware of what is happening over there. Both in the physical world and the cyber world, the transparency and communication is extremely important. Then the accountability and redress, because errors can happen, issues can happen, but do we have a process in place where we hear this complaint, fix it, learn from it, and make sure that that doesn't repeat on that? So that is the commonality part we see between a physical world and the digital world, digital trust. But when we look at the difference of it, the tangibility and intangibility, because in the physical world I know who that is, I have a touch and feel of it, and a lot of things are there, but we, the other side, we are working on a virtual environment where I don't get that feel at all. So I am getting into an environment where I am trusting somebody where I don't know where even they exist, or who is behind it. I have a lot of gray areas to deal with. Then the verification mechanism, because in a physical world we can verify an individual much easily, but on the other side we have to have two-factor authentication, many different ways of authenticating and identifying that individual to that. And the scale and the speed, the digital world works in a much faster way and a highly scalable way. Anonymity and identity. So in the physical world we work completely with identity driven. We know the person, we can take references faster. But when it comes to the digital world, there's a lot of anonymity on that. Then the risk perception and the management, because our stakeholders come from different background, different age, different culture. So everybody has different perception about digital world, and which was easy to get cleared or make a perception better if in a physical world, but cyber world is many times it is a tougher thing. Then the impact of the breach. In physical world, when a breach happens, it is limited to that space where we can contain or we know exactly what is happening, but on the cyber world we cannot. Take an example why we say cyberbullying is becoming a major problem, because in a physical bullying we know exactly who is bullying us, what is his capability, what is his background, we can even say what is his motive on that. But when it comes to a cyber world, we have no answers saying who's doing, why are they doing, where are they doing from, what are they doing, how are they doing it. Many times we don't have answers to that. So that is why the impact of the breaches and the volume it goes in are huge. And then the trust in the technology and systems we use. Many times we say, oh, I'm using this cloud, I'm using this technology, but consistently we are seeing vulnerabilities coming from that area, supply chain impact happening over there. So that creates a huge lot of concern for our stakeholders in the digital trust. That's where we all need to work together to make sure that the trust is maintained or been communicated and the perceptions are created right to them. So trust in the digital economy is growing in a very fast pace. Now for every services we use, we use the digital services. The trust is the foundation of that. The confidentiality, integrity, availability, regulatory requirement, contractual compliance stands as the major building blocks of it. But then if you look at from there, the reliability, credibility, transparency, integrity, compliance, privacy, governance, and who is driving it? Our assets, our practices, our people, our data, brand, services, communication. The problem here is that trust is extremely dynamic and it is built on transparency. Now, in a physical world, the trust builds over time and it stays. Even if there is an issue, we can fix it up in a much faster way. But the trust building is very slow on the physical world. But when it comes to the cyber world, trust is, people love the service, they just trust blindly and they jump in. But if it is eroded, it's too and fast to erode, and too difficult to regain back. Now, if you look at, somebody is coming to a website, and website is your antivirus suddenly alerts and say there is a malware in that web or in that portal, or you get a broken link, or you are doing an e-commerce search and suddenly you get a call from another company saying that, oh, you're trying to buy this, I can give you a better product. Then your trust is eroded. So roughly around 100 odd parameters are there in the technology space which can erode the trust of our stakeholders. And each of this we need, and it doesn't, because earlier, if you look at many companies in the physical world, a senior leadership or the management's act or an accounting bad practices or ethical issues or something creates a trust issue for a corporate. Now we are seeing that even a junior most employee with the right access or a comment in his blog can create a trust issue for the organization. So trust is becoming one, and it is extremely dynamic, because today we have a trust. That doesn't mean the next moment we have it. Anything, any technology, any asset, any people, any practice, any blog can impact our trust. That's why trust becomes extremely important, what's being the foundational block of our digital economy. Now, if you look at who are our stakeholders, because in many times we go back to an organization and say, hey, who manages our Active Directory or a SAP or our customer interfacing portal? We know the names, we know the functions. But the digital trust is a continuous collaborative approach across a wide range of stakeholders. And this can be both internal and an external customer base or a stakeholder base. And any one of them can create a trust issue. Even a third party has no relevance to your organization can write a blog and create a problem for you. That's where your instant responses, your communication, your transparency saves you from to sustain the trust over them. Now, CISO as an individual or a function it's not, the individual is not the right word. Is as a function, they are the champions of the digital trust. While I said it's a very participatory, collaborative environment, he is the one who's actually championing it across the organization. He's not just a gatekeeper. He's the architect of the digital trust. So if you look at, we have to start with building the culture of security in the organization. Or now we are not talking about, if you look at this month, the last month, October, was Security Awareness Month. Ideally, we should start talking about the Digital Trust Month, because security, privacy, all we are talking about, end of the day, what is getting is the outcome is digital trust. We need to build a security culture in the organization. People are our first line of defense. And if a matured organization with a security culture in mind, they can actually defend most of the problems, or they can avoid most of the problems. Because when you are coding or when you are configuring a system, you will not use a default password, or you will follow the guidelines of the organization to make sure that you are not creating a website or a system which is exploitable. So that's the culture we need to build on that. You should have the mindset to say, I'm not going to post something of internal organization in a GitHub so that somebody can reuse it. Or I'm going to take out a vulnerable code from Pastebin and then use it in a customer's environment. And so my work is done, but you should have that security mindset to say how it can impact the overall environment. The CISO also champions the data privacy and protection across the organization. The risk management and mitigation, proactively identifying all possible risk and communicating it to the stakeholders to make sure that it is mitigated proactively on that. There are so many compliance requirements around security and privacy. And many organizations are now even coming with the digital trust officers. They are an extension of security officers, ideally, or a CRO. So compliance and regulatory adherence, enhancing resiliency and response capability. Something can go wrong. Can we fix it faster? Can we make sure the processes are all in place? Driving the secure digital transformation. Companies are continuously migrating to new environment, new platforms, new technologies. So the CISO plays a big role in ensuring a secure digital transformation. We have seen many cases the test environment has the database with a default password or S3 bucket being enabled, exposed, because the CISO has to give the guidelines and the enforcement to make sure that is not stakeholder collaboration. This is not just internal, we have the external and the internal, the partners, the third parties, the managed service providers, cloud providers, regulators, peers, so many people in the external environment, while internal also. He is the stakeholder in collaborating with all of them, influencing the policy and governance to ensure that the company has a digital trust approach. Because all our policies which was written, so if you look at the policy side, traditionally we wrote policies with a punitive control in our mind. So it is an example, as an example, in a small classes I done homework not because I wanted to do homework, because the teacher was very strict. The teacher is going to scold me. To avoid a scolding, I done my homework. In the same way, we wrote policy saying that, okay, if you come late half an hour, I am going to cut half a day leave, or if you don't perform, I am going to cut your bonus. So that is how we wrote the policies, or I will take action, or I will terminate you. But in the new world, the new generation, that punitive controls are not working. So we are writing the policies with a more participative approach in mind. We are telling them exactly what could wrong if you don't do it, and why you should be doing it. It's not an easy task to change from a punitive approach policies to a participative way, but the CISOs take a big role in making sure and actionable such policies are in place, policies and governance, fostering innovations and the new designs for that. So CISO directly, indirectly, is the central point for the the digital trust in an environment or in an enterprise. And initially, the fundamental reason was the privacy security was with him, and because of that, it was he by de facto, and then now he's striving much beyond that. Now let us look at saying, what is a CISO? This is a CISO 2 decades back. I started my career almost 25, 28 years back in the cybersecurity. That time we were the backend guys. We come off hours because we either wanted to upgrade our antiviruses in each PC in a floppy disk, or we need to do a change in our firewall. So nobody knew our name. We were all called by the security guy or by us, the antivirus guy or the firewall guy, and nobody knew about us. And over then, and that time our era was very simple: antivirus, firewall ideas, and few things where we had to do it. We don't have to understand the business context at all. It was very specific. The rule comes saying this rule need to be put into firewall. We need to give an access. No questions asked. That's how the CISOs, most of the CISOs, or the security professionals started their career. Now then, over the years, if you look at their role changed continuously from a computer security, because initially when I started, nobody talks about data security at all. We never heard the concept of privacy in the digital world. So each and every year or period, we started seeing new way of looking the CISO's role. So now we have reached the digital risk and trust. This is still more ladders to come up on that, but currently we are there on that. So CISO is also not a person or a professional who just came with all the knowledge and suddenly saying, I'm going to create a digital trust. He came through his own evolution and reached here. So he's also learning. That's why if you look at application security, one of the most important area, many CISOs are struggling because initially, because if you look at, we started hearing the word called microservices, GitHub, microservices, Dockers, all of that thing. We had no clue what it is because most of the CISOs never came from a development background. Because developers, when they came out of the college, they all had a good career and they never had to become a CISO or a security guy. Security guys traditionally come from a network side or a server side, and when the application security became so relevant, they were just struggling initially. Now they copped up to a great extent. So, you as a developer, as an application security personals, you have a huge role on ensuring the digital trust of an enterprise. Earlier, if you remember, you go to a bank or a hotel, there is a front desk, there is a person's well trust, well behaved, answers your queries, and deliver your service. You are impressed with that service you are getting over there. Now, majority of the users, their first interface, that particular person, the front end, is the application, the portal we develop, or the application interface we give to them. So, as a developer, the application security plays a huge role in creating the perception, the trust for every stakeholders interacting with us, because they need one is this, they want better services, usability, all of that thing, but they also expect their data to be handled with proper due care, and ensure their security is being taken care, and transactions are safe. So the application security, in my understanding or my belief or my experience, I feel the application security team is one of the core pillars in building digital trust. The trust in the digital space is like a glue, because glue holding the digital world together. Because if trust is lost, earlier we mentioned that as a foundational block, and if that glue is not there, making sure everything is standing together, the digital economy will fall. The challenge part is new threats are coming into picture. We are talking about quantum computing coming into picture. It can break encryptions. And then so far we said, don't worry, your transactions are all safe because we encrypt it. What if a new technology comes and say that, okay, we have the capability to break your encryption? Or we started seeing a lot of things. So the trust of the digital trust currently, what we are seeing, it will evolve heavily in the next coming years, especially with ChatGPT. When ChatGPT, Gen AI all comes into picture, the interface with the customers are going to be very limited also, because they are going to put natural language into some field, and they don't have to worry about anything at the back. But their expectations are going to be much high that you are taking care of it. And the turbulence in the digital terrain, each and every incident happening in the world are related to cyber, the new threats coming into picture, the increasing regulatory demands, all are going to create expectations vary in our stakeholders. That's where it is a journey we are in. We need to continuously build digital trust for our stakeholders. With that, thank you very much. Hope you had a great session in the last 2 days. And again, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. It's always wonderful to listen to you and your thoughts. Thank you.
And Vandana, keep up your passion and energy, because you are doing a fantastic job in this domain and consistently for many years. So let me put that way also.
Thank you, sir. It means a lot coming from you, and we're really glad that you could be part of our conference. And it's our first edition, so it really meant a lot. You joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much again. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning with us. And we are going to start closing. Um, thank you.